Okay. Thank you everyone for coming. I think this is going to be really fun. My two favorite things, group projects and sailing rules. So I think this is going to be a good time. So just the structure of how we're going to do this, we're doing mock protest hearings. And Sean and I have talked about a couple different ways that we're going to do this, but I think what we'll start with is we'll have two volunteers, each one representing one side of the story. But I think it's important that you talk with the people around you and plan out what you're going to argue. So this is a free discussion, and then we'll do 5 minutes or so until
5 minutes discussion, and then
5 minutes discussion where you're not trying to convince anyone. You're just coming up with how you're going to argue your case, and then each representative will get a minute, and then we'll decide who is right, and then the final step will be each representative saying how they would have driven their boat differently to win the race.
Or win the situation.
Win the situation, yeah. Just do it better, get away cleaner. So let's start with who wants to be a volunteer for the first round, and then I'll tell you what the situation is and which boat you're representing.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to be picking the one they think is going to be right.
Steve's volunteering.
No, I don't know enough.
I love making it.
Okay, we got one.
I like it. We got one
You volunteered first, so I'll give you the winner.
I just want to get it out of the way.
All right,
Okay, Chad,
I don't
great.
really know the scenarios. I have talked to them ahead of time, but not specifically about events.
All right.
So I'm free and clear to have this discussion.
Let's give Chad. All right, Chad, you'll be green,
Okay.
and Bill, you'll be red.
I like that.
All right.
Okay, so in this situation, we're at a start line. What that's important or not, that's up for you to decide. Boat 1 is fairly stationary, waiting for the start. Or green boat. Chad is fairly stationary, waiting for the start. The red boat is coming in to find a hole on the start line, tucks into leeward of the green boat, comes up, calls leeward, and is trying to come up but cannot because the green boat is there. And then they both kind of sail a parallel course across the line and start the race. And let's just say that the red boat yells protest. This is a valid protest. You can look up how to do that in the racing rules. So at this point, we are at the room. We are intentionally not giving a lot of details on distances and times and things like that. That's up for you to argue from. Pretend you put yourself into this boat. Everyone's been in this experience on some level. So think about how you want to argue your case, and then we will start. I think we start with the protester.
Yes.
So Chad, you'll start in 5 minutes with a 1 minute argument.
Is Chad green or?
Chad is red.
Oh no! I
No,
thought
no,
I was.
no.
Oh, sorry. Flip all that. Bill, you'll start in 5 minutes.
Can I
and you'll
just
argue.
take my turns because he's probably
First
right.
thing is the schizophrenia of the situation. Are you?
So who do we have a crew or who do we discuss?
Yeah,
from?
maybe
Talk
the
with
people around you.
Come on over, Chad.
Talk with whoever.
Talk amongst yourselves.
We'll start.
We have
There's a rule book on the table,
listed out the basic rules here. Rule book on the table that is out of date.
but
Here's a current one.
Oh, we got a current one there.
Current one.
There's a link to the free app in the Sail Fleet chat.
Ooh, everybody on Zoom, you can start just putting stuff in the chat, and we'll see what you have to say.
There you go.
Say, Gabe.
Yeah, Bird.
I might just say one thing.
Hey, real quick.
One thing that's going to start all this off is anytime you go into a protest committee, the very first thing you're going to hear is this a valid protest?
Yeah.
And so they're going to ask you, they're going to ask the protesting skipper several things. Did you hail? Did you hail? How long did it take you to hail after the incident? Did you fly your protest flag? And I'll tell you that in the protest committees that I've sat on, you have to fly your flag and hail at the first reasonable opportunity, and that is now interpreted by almost all protest committees as being almost immediate. If you say, well, I just went down below to get the protest flag and then put it on the backstay, that won't pack it. It has, the protest flag has to be right there, and you have to put it on the backstay right now.
And the protested boat needs to know. So like, you need to be clear who you're protesting and that it's happening. And then you need to get back to the dock, fill out your form,
Fill out your form, yeah.
get it to the protest
Yeah.
committee. All of those things need to happen before we even get here. So probably 90% of protests never happen.
Yep. And we can, and another night we can go over all of that official stuff. We can bring protest forms in and so we can all see them, because we should all be comfortable with that. But,
Yeah.
But this is mostly just a rules review and just to see how this process goes. So, all
Did
right.
you want to ask something, Jason? Or
Well, how long does the protest flag have to fly? Is it for the
And
rest of the race?
until you're done racing is the way the rules say. So that
Racing
means
for the
ra-
day
well,
or for that race?
for that race. So,
Yep.
so after you have to cross the finish line with the flag flying, and then you can take it down.
And then you usually need to notify race committee,
Yeah.
like you sail right by race committee and let them know.
Yep.
And then you go to the shore and you fill out your form, and then so there's
It's a
multiple
process.
levels that you have to get right.
People, they want it to be hard to protest
Yeah.
so that you handle it on the water.
What would happen if you were going to protest twice? So you're at the mark rounding, you already had your protest flag flying,
Oh,
and
man.
you were gonna do you just say, protest,
You
and,
probably need another beer.
okay. Cool.
Yeah, I
You
think
might
as
like
long-
take your flag and like
Sorry.
kind of wave it around and then put it back up.
I think as long as you are flying the flag, you're okay. I don't think you have to read.
Break all the rules, flag.
I want to protest everything.
All right.
Wait, another question.
About hailing.
Yeah.
If you're in close proximity, you verbally hail. What if a boat is a long ways away, like going the wrong way through a gate, and you're quite a distance away? Do you get on the VHF and?
Yeah, that's the, one of the few times where you don't have to fly a protest flag is if, you're protesting because a boat did not sail a course correctly. Cause most of that time you aren't gonna be within hailing distance, and they won't be able to see the flag. You just have to notify them at the first reasonable opportunity. You know, whether it's at the dock or whether it's, somewhere on the course or something like that. So you don't have to fly a protest flag if it's for sailing the course wrong.
And you only ever, when you hail someone, it's only verbally.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Your 5 minutes starts now.
You guys gonna talk over there, or gonna talk over here?
Pick a side, man, pick a side, you red or green.
I'll say that I think what we're really talking about here, and what's on the board is, the green number 1 and the red number 2. That's where they're saying,
I think the first couple of
and we're green number 1. So then, I think, here's what I'd like to hear from you guys, is what rules that we're going to start considering to apply in that. And I think what that is gonna be, in my opinion, is overlap and proper course. So, so you're, because you can actually let people start. True, but you want
Say,
also,
Sean, in the Tommy case,
during the pre-start, after the 4-minute mark,
Wouldn't this also fall under the rule? So if we're the windward boat, and we're not moving, not trying to, they have plenty of opportunities to come between us and the racing.
That'd be great. Yeah, I think we're finishing with that one.
Okay, okay.
They're protesting that we're slow.
no, but here's what they're trying to, I think the idea that they're trying to convey to us, because you can happen to know it's not actually the way, they're gonna talk about our boats are doing. That's not a thing. Yeah, because it's basically trying to come in and sit there and block. Is there a separate rule other than what they're gonna try to do?
Rule 11 or
Yeah, right, that's what they're.
having to pass the proper course at the start.
not moving it backwards.
Where's that? Well, it's written, if you look, there is
So
no
that's,
proper
I mean, that's a
course before the
stationary
start.
moment, so.
Is that in the definition?
I don't,
That's what I was looking for, where that
Let's see,
is.
where is that?
It's happening. Is M, green number 1 on close
The
hold
rules for
proper
starting,
course, right, when red number 2 gains over.
I know before the starting signal, there is no proper
As the
course.
blue boat comes up.
Yes,
Whether
and,
that's in the
and,
definition or in
Yeah.
one of the rules.
So that's, it's this little
Alright,
spot
about
right
halfway
here,
done,
we're
right.
trying to
Let me get
apply
there.
rules to figure out why we didn't do anything wrong.
unless that's
So the
what
second part of this
2002
what
is.
option he said he's gonna
Green
call
boat may correct any errors in sailing a course.
Into the race window, and they cut us off. and they
Final
made
same
it
thing from,
onto a more
Everyone else can be talking.
out of the wind to be able to get speed, so they remove our odds.
Have to say these things, right? Like you have to say,
Like,
like,
Like you read it out, I'm like,
I think the best one is probably to push, like you said.
like, let's go. Did you actually get it on the mark? Yeah. He's like, you're like, you were 100% sure. Because if he didn't, he would have lost. So, right? Yep, yep. Which I've never gotten a good answer on one thing.
oh, here, it's in, under proper course.
Oh, the best interpretation I've heard
In the
is when you're starting across the line.
proper course, a boat has
When
no
it,
proper
like, there's
course.
no point where you
So,
would hit them.
Yeah, but the question is,
there's a 2 for red, and at that point, the
what if I'm
green
reaching?
somewhere between 2 and 3.
Do am I clear here, or am I clear here?
Red boat could
Right? Like, is it
Oh, I see what
this
you're
line,
saying.
or is it this line?
I would say it's this line.
I would,
Once
yeah.
you're clear down over the mark.
I mean, that's a whole nother, that's like sailing philosophy.
It kind of depends where the next and what kind of boat you're sailing.
True. Well, that's what I mean, right?
Do you sail reach courses? Do
Because
you
like,
sail down
if
the
one solo clears the mark on this line,
Yeah.
but does Vertigo, or does Vertigo clear it on the?
Yeah, right? What happened at the start line?
30-second warning.
More importantly, I wish I knew what rules that I could specifically call out as a reason.
right.
That's what I don't know, unfortunately.
You won't have all those rules memorized.
Yeah.
I don't even have
Yeah,
a
do you
rule
need
book.
rule book?
Oh, no, I have the app. Oh, so, I mean, I just don't
There's
even
an
know
app
that.
for that?
You're allowed
I
to
just put it.
You are allowed to reference that in your hearing.
Yeah.
Most people bring a book.
Well, I didn't, yeah, I just put it in Messenger.
The app?
Right.
Oh, it's an Apple app.
Well, that's right, defining proper course.
All right, that's time. Who's first?
Who did we assign?
Who is the red boat?
I'm the red boat.
All right.
And you're protesting.
I am protesting
So you're up.
that
Whenever you're ready. So I would just come up here, kind of walk us through what happens.
Yeah.
You don't need to move boats because they're kind of
they're
where they
there.
are.
All right.
Yeah. You'll have about a minute.
And don't start.
You ready?
Yep. I think an important thing to note about like procedure of a protest hearing is that this would be the first thing that everyone would do as part of their argument, is they would lay out the boats where they said they were. But we've done that for you. We're agreeing on this.
Yeah, because you didn't do that an hour ago.
Yeah.
We have to draw it out, right? That didn't happen on the water with you two driving. So this is an agreed fact, and from there we interpret the rules.
Okay.
So whenever you're ready, go for it.
So I'm just minding my own business, sailing along, trying to get a start going. And as I come here and become the lured boat to Chad, he suddenly is in my way. But since I have right of way being the lured boat, he needs to get out of my way so that I can sail the course that I want to sail at the start. And he didn't. So I protest Chad for getting in my way when I'm just trying to start a race.
All right. Any questions?
Not at this one.
That's
I
true.
think we should.
Okay. Okay.
Let
Thank
Chad
you.
do it.
We
Then
will
we have
might
to
have
ask
questions in a
questions.
minute. Chad, you're up.
Hello, everyone. My name's Chad, and I just wanted to thank you for being here and being a witness to what we all saw on the water and know the truth of what happened.
The nice
Bill,
guy
I can
argument.
appreciate your perspective from where you were at and the way you saw it. But as I was sailing toward the start line on proper course, close hauled, there was plenty of room clear astern for Bill to get around and on proper course toward the start line. Bill came up and did holler room, but he was not actually, per the rules, afforded the room that he was asking for. He was actually trying to trick me into believing that he needed to have the room when I was close hauled on proper course on the start line, and he came up when he did not have the right to. So I would like to call my first witness.
Who's your first witness?
Byron. Byron saw it.
So Chad, before you call a witness, I do have a question. You
Okay.
mentioned room. He called for room that he was by rule not entitled to.
Correct.
Do you have a rule number for us for this rule?
How much time do I have to give you that rule?
You got all the time in the world for
we're
this
in the
one.
question period.
Okay.
This is the post your 1 minute.
So you have the list there,
That should be everything you need for this.
and you can tell us multiple that you think apply.
And you can look on the in the app or the rule book to find a more specific one if you need to.
I believe that we are likely in the area of changing course.
Okay. Okay.
Can I get some thumbs up out there in La La Land? Who's voting for Chad? Oh, stop it, Eddie. You stop it.
He sounds like a nice guy.
Okay, I have. We are questioning.
Yeah.
Both of you at this point. So, Bill, when at position 2, so we left out green 2 because
Yep.
Because it's the same though.
it wasn't
Yeah.
moving much.
Okay.
But when you're in position 2, what did you or anything, if anything, say to Chad?
I said that I was the lured boat and that he needed to come up.
Okay.
Okay.
I have an additional question to that.
Yeah.
How far from Chad were you when you asked him to come up?
Well, as far as I recall, we never made contact. I don't remember that being an issue. But
Sure.
if that was part of the subtext that I missed, then
No.
You know,
there was no contact.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. There definitely, I had definitely overlapped his stern. We had enough room that we were safe, but I wanted to come up farther,
Sure.
and he was
Okay.
keeping me from being able to come up.
Okay, Chad, when he asked you to come up, could you? Did you? Or better question, did you try to?
Well, as we spoke about, I really didn't have a lot of speed at this point, so my steerage was minimal, if anything. I was really, there was some current that was moving me, but I didn't truly have steerage at this point. So that was a main factor for me, was that I really, there wasn't anything I could do anyway. And as a matter of fact, I think he prematurely called because I don't think he actually had overlap when he yelled it. I think he was using some psychological tactics and asking me to come up before he actually had proper rights to do so.
Hey, if you can't handle psychological warfare,
It's a long bow.
I think I've got all I need.
I think I do too.
Yeah.
Byron, do you have any other questions, or anyone from the peanut gallery?
Yeah, so this, Bill, what would have happened at that time if Chad had come up, or tried to come up? Would he have hit you?
With his stern.
Oh,
I
if
think it's
Chad
actually
had
with his
come up.
stern.
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of. We were not that close that I was concerned about contact.
Okay?
Okay. Well, that was oops, that's a good question to ask. Okay, I think we've got what we need. I think. We discussed this for a second.
Let me think for just a second if I have another question.
Yeah, I actually I remember when he asked me, like I said, it was a little early for him to ask. I don't think he actually had overlap. But I thought we were close enough that if I did start to come up and were able to, we would likely make contact. And it gave me enough of a startle that I would say I blipped the tiller to actually come down to basically move out of the way in that direction so we wouldn't make contact.
So you said you were close hauled, so you couldn't have come up anymore or lost any.
Well, I mean, you can always come up higher. It
Yeah.
slows you down.
But I really didn't. I didn't have a laminar flow enough to have steerage.
See, now he's bringing physics. And maybe a little overqualified. Yeah.
So Chad says that he thinks Bill called out prematurely because he didn't have overlap. Why does he think that if he turned, he would have made contact?
Well, I think because it sounds to me that the hail was slightly early, but overlap was quickly thereafter.
Right. I mean that's there is a fine line there. So like there was a lot happening in that 3 seconds of between what he called, where we were at, and when he protested. So in recollection, I certainly was doing what I should have been doing, and Bill was certainly in the wrong.
I have a question regarding safety.
Yeah.
Bill, when you were coming up on him and you were asking him to get out of your way, were you aware that he was in danger of hitting the committee boat?
Yeah.
Oh, there was plenty of room
Well,
between him and the committee boat. That was not an issue as I saw
Did
it.
you feel that
That's-
you had plenty of room?
That was.
There's the committee.
That changes everything.
We're gonna start over again.
I think, if I had hailed early, it was to give him time to make the adjustments in his course. I think it's important to know that before the start, there is no proper course. And so the lured boat has the room to go where they're going because the lured boat has right of way. So I don't know if that's what the judge is supposed to say or I am, but I think that's an
So-
important piece of the definition to be aware of.
As good protest committee does, while the race was going on, we weren't there. We were getting pedicures. And so if you could enlighten us about what the conditions on the course were, that could be helpful.
knowing that it may be very different if boat went apart from each other.
I know for me, it was very light wind. As mentioned, I really did not have a lot. There wasn't, like I said, laminar flow. I really didn't have much propulsion. Therefore, I didn't have a lot of water flowing across the rudder. Didn't have great steerage. There was some current there that was actually pushing.
And being in close proximity, I was under in conditions with about 12 knots of wind.
Yep.
And
Hand fly over.
So you're on Pearl Gem and your mast is 30 feet in the air. So
there was sufficient wind
To move.
for me to move in
I mean,
the
that's a
pre-start
good
from
point. Yeah.
behind the boat up to the boat. There was definitely enough wind for there to be movement,
Even with his dirty air.
even with his dirty air.
yeah, I think it shows here. That's a really interesting angle to gain lured rights from. To come up to get that kind of overlap, because overlap is typically in a parallel fashion, right? So if your course is here and then you come up to get overlap
To the start line.
lured,
That's where you would come.
I'm a little concerned about those tactics, my friend.
Especially when the other buoy's way over there. Like, you
Okay,
got
I
plenty
think
of
we've come to
room to keep
our
that
decision.
course.
Everybody good?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yep.
Do you wanna,
I appreciate that we came out safely, though. I hope to sail with you more out there on the water.
I hope that transom's okay.
Yeah.
So,
I just repaired it. So.
based on, and this is when Byron's gonna come and tell us we don't know anything about the rules.
I know. I'm really glad Byron's
Yeah,
here,
right.
actually.
But based on our interpretations of your story and the interpretations of the rules, we have deemed there to be no penalty. in this situation because the red boat did not give sufficient room to the green boat to avoid. However, there was no collision, and both boats sailed on. Yeah, no penalty.
So, as we step through this, at position 2, the red boat is both changing course and has acquired right of way via Rule 1 or Rule 11. So, the red boat has become the lured boat and is coming up to close hauled course. So, that means that the windward boat needs to keep clear. And what it means to keep clear is that a boat keeps clear of a right-of-way boat if the right-of-way boat can sail her course with no need to take avoiding action, and when boats are overlapped, like in position 2, the right-of-way boat can also change course in both directions without immediately making contact. But, so if it was just that, you would think, oh, 2 couldn't come up, couldn't change course in that direction without making contact. But because red was acquiring right of way and changing course, a room needs to be allowed. And because the green boat was not moving and had very little steerage and very little room to do it, they could not come up any further in that condition. And then both boats sailed along parallel, no contact. Any questions about that?
I'd almost like to make a comment, like all kidding aside, I don't think my argument was that great, but I think I can BS pretty well. So what does that actually look like in a protest?
Well, I've
I
definitely
don't-
won hearings that I was wrong in.
Okay.
You just,
Well, but I think more than that, I think I mean, unless Byron has a totally different take, I think you're right. I mean, it's kind of like there's a no harm, no foul, right? Just because I have the right to go there doesn't mean that I should be able to, right? Unless you put other boats here, and that's a hole I want to get into, and I'm avoiding other
this
boats.
gets more complicated when you add basically.
Yeah, and so I mean, I
to this
get,
scenario.
it was a hard case for me to make. I mean, you kind of have to pull out the jerk rule,
Well,
you know, if I just want to go there.
This actually points out what happens, I think, in the majority of protests. The crux of this whole thing is, at this position, when Bill wants to come up, does Chad have room to come up without hitting him? That's the whole thing. So Chad says, no, he didn't. If he'd come up, he would have made contact. Bill says, oh, plenty of room. That's usually you're gonna have, that's what's gonna happen.
Who has the burden of proof in that situation?
Neither. You just have to, the committee just has to decide, you know, which is more credible.
Gotcha.
I'm still pretty new at all this. I would say relatively, or maybe don't have as confidence in my understanding of all the rules. If this had happened, I will say that I've been with sailors that have much more experience that would say, I didn't do anything wrong, we're starting and we're winning. I probably would have done a turn, because I probably would have seen that and thought, yeah, I probably was pretty close to fouling him, I should probably do it.
And that's the right thing to do. If you're in doubt,
Yeah,
do your turn.
that is the right thing to do,
Yeah.
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 Because
And then
if
it's
you're
clean,
wrong,
and then we're not here.
yeah, because if you're wrong on the water, you did a circle, big deal.
Yeah.
If you're wrong in the room, you're thrown out of the race.
Yeah.
So that's a big. That's a big
Especially
penalty.
at the start. If you can do 2 circles well, you're not far behind people.
Yeah. You got a lot of time.
So question, two questions, are we under the presumption here that this is a one-class design race?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay,
For the
so-
sake of rules, it doesn't actually change much.
All right, so
but-
then everything moves forward in terms of what we're talking about, but assuming that the red boat has a much better ability to point than the green boat, can the red boat force the green boat into a stalled position?
Yes.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Close haul is your close haul.
And
the other way.
Well-
and you can go as all the way head to win,
He had to win, yeah.
regardless of what boat you're in.
Before the start, you can go ahead,
Especially,
you can
yeah.
push them head to win,
So it seems to me that,
Of course, before it starts.
right?
it seems to me that proper course is frequently in the interpretation of the driver.
So
And very
yes.
often, what they say is proper course, they're actually luffing their boat, and it's not proper course for them.
So a note on proper course, which is Rule 17, which you can note I omitted off of here. It very rarely applies. It does apply in this situation, except that it's before the start. There's no proper course before the start. So you can go all the way to head to wind.
You cannot force a boat to tack.
Yeah.
You cannot go past head to
You can make it advantageous for them to tack, but you cannot force them to. So most of the time, when someone is saying, like, sail your proper course, or I'm sailing my proper course, it's irrelevant.
Yeah. Every once in a while it's relevant.
But in this situation, let's say this was after the start somehow, and these people were being super weird. When they got to this point, or maybe in between these 2 points, 2 came from clear stern and therefore cannot sail above her proper course. Or sorry, red. I keep saying 2. So at that point, the proper course would be the course you would take to get around the course as fast as you can. So for red, that could be a higher course than green, but it's not well above close hauled. You're not luffing your sails.
That is where multi-class racing gets weird.
Yeah.
Is that boats have different close hauls, so it can get strange sometimes. But
So that was great. Last discussion, last part of this is what should each boat have done differently to do better in this race? Anyone can answer.
The green boat should have followed a similar course pattern, if possible, to have
Sure.
stayed at a broad reach, perpendicular to the wind.
So keep some
So they
speed.
had speed for steerage.
See red coming.
I think speed is the big one.
Yeah.
Right, because you can get
And maybe,
dangerous.
so I would have went, let's say, boat favored. I mean, that's a very odd course to be coming at the start line from, in my mind.
So if we
We
did
can
2
draw
go
this better. Yeah.
for green. So if green keeps moving so that red can never get overlapped, so 3-3, 2-2, 1-1, then they're never in that situation. They have speed. They can start. But if we get back into that situation where you really just don't want to end up here, because then you're stopped and you can't come down.
If one gets there early, they want to keep their bow pointed a little more to port and just luff the sail, so
Sure.
that they can pull the sails in if they need to move.
Depower their
Right.
sail
Yeah.
on the line.
Because once their nose is up high, they're stuck.
That's an important
What
thing
about-
to learn is where your boat can accelerate well from.
He was asking about how to mitigate that if you have plenty of time, and I think number one, with the committee boat further away, he should have just gone on it wasn't set up like that, he just now set that up, but.
Yeah, I was a little more here and yeah.
Well, there was more space there, and then number one should have flipped over to port, knowing number two was coming up on.
Interesting.
That's an option.
That is an option too. So I think generally green more speed, or have the ability to have more speed, and then red should probably not be late.
Green doesn't want to be in this
Red's kinda late.
situation. Now red, what about red? What could red do to win this start? Because let's say at the end of this, they're parallel and going the same speed. So 3 kind of dropped off in speed and control. Green stayed the same. So what could red do differently here?
Red could have kept a little bit more of a course to port,
Mm-hmm.
10 to 15 degrees, and still made it inside the starting line,
Yeah.
but at a greater speed that would have actually propelled them faster across the line.
So what red can do, what I would do if I was red, is what I call a bump and run. And this is, you come up, you hit this position here. You can, if you feel like you need to, you can protest. And while they're schooling the rudder and like trying to get going, you're bearing away and sailing off. So like,
You're
don't
starting
stay here.
instead of here.
So you said hit that position, you mean just don't quite hit them,
Right.
Yeah.
just give them the thought that they need to do something.
There's
Come in and make noise, right? Come up,
Yeah.
come up, come up.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then while they're
Make noise for 3 seconds,
fussing around,
and then you're
fall
gone.
off,
Yeah.
Well,
you can go with speed.
the other thing that green could have done from 1-1 is green could have tried to fall off, gain some speed,
Right.
and then he's making red sail down lower, and then he's got room to come up.
Yep.
Which
No,
I did
we
say
still-
that I actually came down a little.
It's true. Yeah.
So I could
But-
get, you know.
Yeah, but you got to come down sooner for that to
Yeah.
work. But okay, I'm gonna make up the next scenario. Gabe, if you can get 2 volunteers while I'm doing this. Yeah, who's that?
I'll go on.
We got one.
You like what?
You want red or green?
I'll be
It's not-
green.
Okay.
Whichever one's gonna win. I don't have a freaking clue what I'm talking about. It's gonna be awesome.
So if you're gonna volunteer, now's
Yeah,
the time.
this is a good one.
All I have is 1 season of racing behind me. You can get there and be like, no. Well, I mean, I could just point at the rules and be like, well, this rule means that I had this right. And I'm like, I got it. I just got the basics.
All right,
And Lucky
Gabe,
Jim pulled some shit
Gabe's
on
the
me like-
volunteer.
I can do it. I can make him win. I have that kind of power.
My opponent is a communist.
Oh, we're doing one.
Yep. Okay. I'll give the facts on this one. Okay. So
I'm already wrong.
your green boat or your red boat. Not necessarily. This boat is right sometimes. It depends on the facts. Okay. So
You kidding me? Look.
start line. Hey, I have seen boats win protest hearings as the green boat.
We're so
It's
sneaky. It's okay. I would not put myself in that position. I'm the red boat now.
all right.
I can argue.
Yeah, we'll
I'll
swap.
argue
That's probably better actually. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
You were better off the first time. I'm just saying.
I'm no, like I would
gonna-
never put myself in that
Okay.
position though. Oh, you liar!
We'll let you all. I'll let you guys convince me of some of the facts, but I'll talk through some of them. Traditional start line, boat sloughing on the line. Red boat is close hauled, getting up to the line. Green boat is coming in from the starboard end of the line and sneaks in here between the race committee and this red boat. The red boat is screaming no room the whole time and protests there is no collision.
Can I be on the protest committee and ask questions?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, you can
seriously,
take
isn't
my spot.
Yeah,
yeah,
have
yeah.
questions with me. All right,
He always wins. So.
Well,
all right.
just for
Gabe is
clarity.
green, Evie is red.
Yeah.
5 minutes
I use the.
starting now.
What are we doing?
I'll use the head one.
Honestly, I'm gonna go with rule number 11. I'm the lured boat in this entire situation. So I'm not required to change it. I have rights the entire time to maintain my course. He's trying to force himself in front of me and in between it so he gets a better start. So if we're going A, on leeward boat, B, we're both on a starboard tack, right? Which means that I have the rights as the leeward boat. And then he starts off behind me, right? And is trying to force his way in there, which is not providing himself safe maneuvering room.
I think that's probably the
I do it for you. That's all I got.
Which book? You're green.
Oh, Byron's listening to me going, oh, that's a good story.
I'll make sure to have your, I'll make sure to have your whole
They
thing.
yelled, they stayed on the it wasn't moving, even though they
So you
yelled.
think I have it.
No, don't do that.
So to make sure that,
Go ahead, I gotta see if we can.
They yell, there won't be room, there won't be room, but they don't change course.
We're assuming that
Or
red
you
is
go foul, right?
You're red, you have absolute right.
Cool.
I still have the opportunity to attack.
That's why I said I would never.
Well, at position two, they're still playing in between boats, so you don't have to.
That's green's not up there.
And then
It's really at position three.
like, I'm going to start to do it, I don't care what happens.
I did leave this intentionally ambiguous a little bit to make me fight over the details. Because the details do matter.
So even if they came up then,
There's absolute likelihood that
Does the race
green
start
would either
when,
gain or the race wins.
what defines the actual start of the race? Is it the horn or is it the first one?
The horn.
Second one, the first one? The horn, even if the horn
According
blows,
to that,
it
doesn't
doesn't
really
really
look
like
like what we're seeing.
it's still started the race.
Yeah.
and then I think I'll claim
As we're coming
that
up,
position
he's changing course and doesn't have any rights other than change course.
The start line is where the flag is on the committee.
You might be better at position two, because that's.
Yeah. Right? Well, the assumption here is that
That's their assumption.
a boat didn't come from clear stern, so proper course.
So are we going under the assumption that
Like they've been sailing overlap for a long time.
what they see, they're just sailing course.
Yeah.
When you were in position 1 and even 2, there was plenty of room.
That should
Yes.
be the case.
Yeah, it wasn't tight to, and I think that's probably the best.
Start yelling till, I mean, you can start yelling till you look over the stars. Right, and then they panicked and wanted to stop.
So
And there was already room in there.
to answer your question, it says the setup in that situation barging okay. I don't think this is the most aggressive part.
Probably like, before they start. There is no proper.
Yeah, well, it's when there's
So
a
it's
lured boat
whoever has the right of way.
that could
2 minute
force you
warning?
to go to the wrong side of the community boat, because they're lured.
And I guess,
Well,
for me, it would be or actually change course to make. Because the vessel is following the same course. Even though there's no advantage there.
I mean, you're all now. There's plenty of room.
Yeah, I think one is that they never said gotta make sure they're marked in. And then two is that they never changed course because of
So who's protesting, red or green?
Red is protesting.
Sweet.
They didn't say anything until.
You're wrong.
Wait, we'll see. We'll see.
And
You've got about a minute.
Price is wrong, Bob.
However, I got it.
spot and you don't take it, you're not.
So, the protesting vote goes first, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a minute. Are you all ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right.
Ready's all we-
EB, go for it.
Let's do this.
You have 1 minute starting.
All right, guys. So, as we were getting ready to come to the start line, I was close hauled, right? Coming up. And I was on the proper course. I'm the lured boat in this situation here because the wind is coming from here anyways, right? And clearly, you were barging and had no rights as the windward boat coming into the situation. Right here, you have plenty of time to turn down to go behind me and not put both my boat and the race committee boat at risk of contact.
Anything else you care to add to your story?
Oh.
Any-
And he failed to require the right of way because he was the windward boat the entire situation, even before he was in changing course.
Interesting.
And you yelled at him saying he was barging.
That's right, you're barging.
All right, anything else? Is that it? You good?
That's it, I'm good.
All right. Gabe, go for it.
Okay, I'm just gonna take 5 of my seconds and look for the word barging in the rule book here, and I don't think I see it anywhere.
That's okay.
What I experienced on my boat is that he was the lured boat, but I feel that I kept clear the whole time. As I came in, I was sailing along, coming into the start. We were both on time. And he said a lot about, like, don't go in there, there's not room, but I saw that there was space for my boat there. And so I went for it. And he never had to change course. He continued sailing close hauled because we were both on time for the start. And he had no reason to come up, and so he didn't. And we didn't have any issue, and we both sailed through the line cleanly.
All right. Okay. Let's see. Questions? No, we're still Chad, what do you have? Any questions? To start?
Yeah, Evie, tell me a little bit more about the, when you use the term barging. I'll say that I'd like to strike that from the conversation as it is not included in the rule book.
Okay,
Instruction
okay.
record.
Yeah, but where were you at when you started to believe that you were going to be fouled?
So right about boat number 2, well, he's still on a course, which from my perspective was a collision course. And in my estimation, there was not room to clear between me and the race committee boat. So wait for it. Well, yes, we cleared the scrambling of my crew for the God damn it.
You got it.
I got this. I got
Don't
this.
practice.
No, so the sculling of the rudder, while I may have maintained course, did bleed off some of my speed because of how close I thought we were to the the race committee boat and not seeing 10 feet of space for there to be beam. He was unnecessarily close to me.
So, to clarify, in your from your point of view, your boat maintained a course, but was slowed due to your reaction to his action.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. Let's see. What happens directly after the start? Boats sailed away clean? Is that what I hear from both of you? Okay. Any other questions?
Are there other questions we should be asking? If you're on the protest committee?
Well, the protester and protestee get to question each other too.
Oh yeah, you all can question each other too.
Well, I'm not gonna throw myself under the bus now.
I kind of had a follow-up question that I forgot about because I was listening to your
Ramblings.
your monologue. So when you started to notice that you had concerns that you were gonna be fouled by him, did you call out or hail him?
Yes.
To give him an opportunity?
So between 1 and 2, we were calling out no room, come below. And he chose to come in between us and the race committee boat anyways.
Just to clarify one more time for both of you, the red boat did not change course at any point in the maneuver.
Stevie goes,
Okay.
I already see where this is going. So,
Okay.
while not a direct heading change, there was some rudder play that slowed me down.
Okay.
Question, so I want to follow up on your question.
Yeah.
What happened immediately past the committee vote? Who went where?
This is
important.
yeah.
Did
Well,
he
so
go faster?
so did you continue on your course? Is position 3 your course for the next?
Did both of you maintain like 1 meter of space between you as you passed the boat and continued on, or did somebody peel off?
Did you ever pass me? Were you faster?
No, I think we stayed even.
Okay.
As if there was a line tied between the two boats, right? Perfectly locked
Yeah.
in. Yeah. Okay.
I think actually he was the lured boat, and I was getting some dirty air, so I might have dropped back a little bit.
Yeah.
I was lured and got dirty. You got dirty air?
Mm-hmm.
Deflection off the mainsail.
Yeah.
Lured boat gets dirty from windward, which means you tried to take my speed from me when I had rights.
I'm sorry, Gabe, I don't think I believe you.
Stranger things have happened. As the green boat is coming in there, it seems to me that as soon as he gets his bow past the stern of the other boat, he can't fall off or can't hit the red boat.
We started calling out around here. He could have fallen off.
I'll admit it was narrow between here. I could not have come down into the red boat. I had no room to leeward.
But given your course, you did have ample steerage to have made a round.
Oh, absolutely. I could have gone any other place.
That was my thought too. I agree. Yeah. Okay. Come to a decision.
but can I say
then
the
you wouldn't have been a
preface to
racer.
that?
Yeah.
This is an interesting argument, and I don't want to give too much away, but this is an interesting position for them to be in, because often enough, Gabe is this boat saying, don't do it, there's no room, do not do it, don't! So this has been interesting to see the other side.
So, and I will be interested to hear Byron's opinion on this because of your rudder situation.
But we agree. We were both on
Yeah,
the same page.
our opinion was there was no, yes.
All right, so look at number 2 and 2. At this point, we all agree this is pre 0000 on the time clock, yes?
Yeah.
So, with the way they are, red 2 can come up. It would be his proper course. Excuse me, there are no proper courses, so it would be well within his right to come up at that point, at which case 2 would collide into him
That is
So with that with an option, with eliminating that option, would that be a foul? Because that he too removed a course change opportunity for red.
So that's interesting.
you're right. So you're right in
So
saying
you're right
that.
in a way, because in my opinion, and this is, I'll take a quick tangent to talk about this for a second. In my view, the committee vote is now an obstruction at position 2 because the green vote cannot tack out anymore. So in my view of this situation, the committee vote is an obstruction at position 2 because he can no longer tack out to avoid the committee vote. The red vote would have had to shut the door sooner. He has to shut the door when there's still an escape route. At position
Which
2.
is why Byron often will put a buoy out right behind the race committee boat.
And do you blame him? I wouldn't trust us either. So, our ruling in this scenario is that there was no penalty. The red boat did not have to avoid the green boat, and it was all fine. However,
You were on point though. You had a lot of good.
had the red boat had to crack off to avoid the green boat or to give the green boat room to fit here, then that might be a different story.
So that begs a whole other question. If the red boat was presuming the green boat to be barging in there, and the red boat was presuming the green boat did not have room, and told him he didn't have room, he basically could have shut the door on it and caused a collision, but did not.
So you have to give the other boat the option to not have a collision. So you have to give the other boat an escape route, right? So at position 1, he can come up here and force the issue and close the door. At position 2, he no longer can.
Well, he gave
But if
him-
he has to avoid, it's a penalty.
He gave
right?
him the option by telling him, don't go in there.
Yep. There's definitely an argument to be had there. for sure.
Meanwhile, he was keeping his course.
Yep.
If he had changed his course, if the red boat had changed course, then he has to allow the green boat to keep clear both of him and the committee boat, because the committee boat is an obstruction in that
So you
case.
just made my point. So the red boat could not close the door without causing a collision.
That's correct, and he didn't.
At this point,
Yeah.
he can hear, he cannot hear, because the option has expired. He's
So
run out
for
of room.
2, I had dropped down instead of coming up.
And if you had reasonably
If I
had
dropped
to
down
avoid,
because I thought he was gonna hit the committee boat,
Yeah.
and that's what I was
Yeah.
calling
yeah,
out.
had you
Had I dropped down, then I would have been in the right.
yes,
Well, then it would have been a determination whether you had to drop
yes,
down
that's
or
fair.
did, and that's what I was gonna say. Gabe made, I think, just a small tactical error when you said, right off, in your opening argument, you said red did not have to come down. I snuck in there. What I would have done is not mention that, and then I would have asked him, when it came your time to question him, did you have to change your course? Just because,
Yeah.
otherwise you're leading him into.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we kind of came up with. Tell me if I'm wrong, but for me, when you guys are getting to this point to the start line parallel and with room, and then you continued course across the start line and remained parallel past the start line, basically you then looking backwards, you proved that there was space there and there was no foul because
I would agree
there was a parallel proper course.
lots of questions. I love it. Yeah.
Well, if red 2 is up a little bit,
You mean up in angle or up in, or just
Yeah.
or physically
Just
up?
like that.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
now is red foul?
So I would argue that if position 1 stays the same, red is fouling green. in
Because
this
we
scenario,
changed course
because
to
you
foul
changed the
them.
course
Yeah.
to
Okay.
initiate a collision.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I have a question about protests, actually, since we've already established this. If, say, I raise my protest flag and I make it halfway through the race, and before we come to the committee, we talk it out even before we go to the committee, and we're like, nah.
You don't
we're
have
good.
to file.
Yeah, you
Cool.
never have
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So this way, it's always advantageous to put up your flag.
And even after you submit the paper, even after you file, you can withdraw the protest.
Yep.
Okay.
Until it's heard.
Bill?
So I guess this is into the what could you do differently. But the key for red vote is to close that door.
Yeah.
If you're gonna try and get the point position, you don't come in tighter to begin with,
Yeah.
right?
That's
You don't even leave the invitation.
Ram the committee vote is what the
It
spot
is-
Like,
it is-
Just go within 4 feet of it.
it is beneficial that if you are winning the vote to be at the vote, like
Yeah.
to even be bearing off to get around the vote at the start is if you're winning the vote, you need to win the vote. But yeah. I think Green had a pretty perfect start. It was super dangerous for him.
But Gabe has a smirk because he's proud of himself that there was no foul because he's about to say why there probably should have been.
I've got about 4 things. So, one, the committee vote is not an obstruction. Section C, which is marks and obstructions.
Well, the committee
Oh,
vote's
it's
not
a mark. It's a mark of the course.
Section C, which is marks and obstructions, does not apply to starting marks surrounded by navigable water or its anchor line from the time that they are approaching to the start until they have passed
Is
it.
this a definition or a rule?
This is the header of Section C, the preamble of Section
Yes,
C.
but, let's see.
But it's Byron's boat.
No,
In reality, not in sailing land, it is an obstruction. You have to go around it.
Well,
It doesn't, you don't get marked.
But no, there is a rule that says, just a minute, that says you cannot force a boat into a
Yes.
mark.
Yes.
And that is a mark, so basically that is not an
So-
obstruction technically, but you cannot
So Gabe,
change course and force a boat into a mark. Let's see where, that's under change
my
course.
interpretation of that preamble has always been that you do not get mark room at starting
Yeah,
marks, but
yeah,
but
exactly,
it is
yeah.
considered.
But, let's see, where's the changing course?
See, but I would think that red needs to create space only to keep a collision from happening.
Yes.
And if there are things you don't do because you're avoiding a collision, then there's a penalty. Right, if red, in
Yes.
that situation, if red had said, I wanted to come up, but I couldn't, then they would, I don't think it's an obstruction in
Well-
that way that you need to give them room, you just need to avoid the collision.
I would agree, Red should be able to do whatever they want.
That's very
As long as
interesting.
they avoid the collision,
That's,
there's a good chance
because
that
I
they
don't
get
think of
fouled.
that as an obstruction the way.
Let's see, it must be
a
in keeping
headland
clear
is,
then.
right?
There's some,
You have
So-
I was for a long time in the same boat that you were, Gabe.
Yeah.
But there's something there that says you can't force them into a mark.
Let's see.
So 19.2b, when boats are overlapped, this situation, the outside boat shall give the inside boat room between her and the obstruction unless she has been unable to do so from the time the overlap began. That
It's
exists.
not an obstruction, though, so that's.
It's not an
yeah.
obstruction, though.
But, just a minute, maybe in keeping clear, just a minute.
So the second thing I was going to say is, yeah, like people have been saying, if red had come up at any point, it would have closed the door. I could not be there, but also if you had just said that you wanted to come up,
Yeah.
but you couldn't because you're avoiding collision,
Right.
that's where what you say has a big impact in here. But what you say on the race course has less of an impact because you're saying no room, no room, no room. That's just a point of agreement, whether there is physical space for me or not.
Okay.
What you could have said that would have been, I think would have made me lose,
If I started yelling out coming up.
coming up. If you said, I'm coming up, I'm coming up, I'm coming up, and I didn't get out of the way, then you're saying what your intention is to do with your boat.
Okay.
So you're saying, I'm trying to come up, but you're going in there. I know I can't. That's very different than saying there's no room there.
Gabe, are you saying what you say on the course is important or is not?
It is not, because
So regardless if
you-
you said
Because there's
no
only-
room, there
there's
won't
only
be room
one-
Or coming up, it
From-
makes no difference.
and I could be wrong on this, but my understanding of the rules is there's only one official hail and it's protest. Nothing else.
there's one
You're-
other
is
room to
what's the other?
tack.
Yeah. room
Oh,
to-
interesting. Okay.
But you do not have to yell starboard. You do not have to yell leeward. You do not have to say no room at the mark. You don't have to say room at the mark. You don't have to say any of that for it to. The rules apply whether you say it or not. But if you communicate your intention, then it makes it like more likely to go your way.
So it doesn't matter on the course unless you're in a protest committee and you were able to use as evidence that you said what you were going to do, and they disregarded it.
And prevented you from doing what you said you were gonna do, whether you intended to do it or not.
So what was the actual protest? Because I was under the assumption that exactly what you said, they lost the opportunity to point more into the wind. If there wasn't any opportunity anyways, and they were already sailing as close as they could, then what exactly was the verbiage of the protest?
That's a good question.
So this is a point of confusion for me too, apparently, because I have seen boats successfully win protests as the green boat in this exact scenario before, and had protest committees say this is the correct ruling. This is the correct ruling. Like it wasn't even that they argued better than the other boat. This is right. But if the committee vote's not an obstruction, I'm struggling to figure out how that's ever correct.
It's not an obstruction, but it's a mark, and you cannot force a boat into a mark if you're changing course. We went around this, Ron, you and I went around on this a couple, I was doing the same thing that Gabe was, and saying that it's not an obstruction, so you couldn't go in there even if the boat changed course, but there's
Red
I-
needs to make the argument
I know
early
there's-
that they want to go there.
I know
Yeah.
there's something in here that says when the red boat is changing course, he cannot force the green boat into the committee boat, even though it's not an obstruction.
I think that would fall under changing course. So like if the two boats were parallel the whole time,
Yeah.
then
No, we're talking changing course.
yeah.
So
Sorry, that's reverse.
There's still something wrong with this scenario. I'm not understanding the protest then. What's the protest?
Yeah.
The protest is that red thinks that green fouled them because they couldn't come up. Which, if that's what they really wanted to do, then that protest is valid. Green should be thrown out.
Okay.
But if their intention was to keep going on a close hauled course because that's what's fastest, then they have no right to protest green because green didn't actually get in their way.
But
Then why they
at
wouldn't be
position,
protesting anyways?
Yeah.
Because they didn't like it.
because they were getting dirty air for the
Yeah.
first
So
20 minutes of the race.
I just wanted to get the volunteering.
This
over.
is-
I'm the new guy here.
Are you learning something? I mean, this is.
I'm learning from this. Yes. I
So,
mean.
Gabe, if you put
Okay, you
the
just keep
green
your eyes
tube back,
down,
right?
right?
At that point, does red not have the rights to tell him that he's gonna come up
yeah,
and
so
push him off?
We were gonna
Like,
let-
I wanna say I'm under the impression he should have the right to do that.
so red is the right of way boat shall give the other boat room to keep clear.
Right.
At this point,
Oh, see, there
two
it
does
is.
not
Yeah.
have room to keep clear because there's
what
nowhere to
was
go.
that, Ryan?
16.1.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
If
So
the orange buoy's not there, he might.
So this is, and I think this is what was successfully argued in the protest that I saw.
Yeah.
Is that at position 1,
And
There
so
is
at one,
room.
at one, he can hail it, tell him he's coming up.
Yep,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
there's-
for sure, yeah.
At position 2,
At two,
he
it's too
can
late.
no longer keep clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's
that makes
back up. You just said that nothing said on the water makes any difference whatsoever.
It
Well,
helps.
this is all just. Yeah.
It-
So
It helps.
it helps your.
It
nothing's-
helps your case in the protest. room.
Nothing's
Right.
official, but it does
Yeah.
help your case on occasion.
So in that scenario, I would think that even there, two has room to get out of the way. Or
So-
green has room to get out of the way.
So it's very close because you have to think that boats don't just. These boats are stationary, right? But it's actually moving.
I can tell you one time, I was on Juan Solo. Dave was driving green number 2 boat, and I remember, blow the main, blow the main, blow the main, blow the main! So it's possible. It does happen.
And then just like
You were green number 2?
Yeah.
Well, but the reality is, I mean, like, 1 and 2, you're not, like, they're gonna be here,
So this is
right? I mean, that's really your angle of
a lot of times.
sail.
that's a
But-
different situation.
Yeah. This.
Well, but, I mean,
Nobody comes.
you're never gonna
hauled in.
point at 15 degrees.
Well,
Well, let's
we're
say this is
assuming-
normal.
Yeah, so
pointing angle.
so let's assume that like this mark is like let's square up this line. We're assuming that this is
But
coastal.
But at what point do you have to tell this boat they can't come in before they have
So,
to give them room.
so my understanding of this rule is you have to close the door, so to say, when the green boat still has the opportunity to not make
Yeah.
contact with another boat.
So in that situation, at place one,
Yeah,
the
here, we'll
door's
look this up
not
just a little
closed
bit.
yet.
Correct. Position 1, it's not. Position 2, I would argue it is, or borderline is.
The door is closed, but two no longer can turn out.
This is what I mean. So boat 2 right now cannot come up anymore because they
Yeah, but
cannot.
two green can't get out of the.
Green could
that's
turn
what-
down.
That's what I'm saying. Is that the red boat cannot close the door anymore because green does not have another route out. This is the green's only safe path is into this hole. So red has lost their opportunity to close.
Bigger opportunity to barge than
So-
I thought existed.
We set this up to show people don't barge, but I think we've
Showed people
flipped that.
Like, oh, hey, I'm barging
so
from
the
now
answer
on.
to this,
Constantly, right? But in reality, at like -2 or 3, we should be seeing this and making those adjustments.
yeah.
Long before
So
you
well,
get
and the
here.
answer is that the red boat should set up here and not here.
Yeah.
Right. Set up high on line. If you want to win the boat, set up so your close hauled course is into the boat, and then you can make your course adjustment and start right at the boat.
I think you're
Okay,
setting,
I
you're
think,
setting the fleet up
I'm still
for-
trying to figure out how you came, when you change course,
This is not right. I don't think this is
the
right.
committee vote is not an obstruction, we know that.
Yes.
But when you change course, now here, I think we can cover this, it says, under exoneration. When as a consequence of breaking a rule, a boat has compelled another boat to break a rule. So by changing course, and not, you're forcing the other boat to make contact with a mark.
Yep.
Which is breaking a rule. So the boat then, you're the boat that broke the rule, changing course. The other boat broke a rule by hitting the mark, but he's exonerated. So even though he creams the committee boat and smashes up his boat, it's your fault.
I do want to, Ron, you bring up an amazing point. Honestly, I do want to say this. We're doing this for argument's sake to get through the rules. You're right. Do not do this.
Yeah, okay.
That's what we're saying. Here's,
This
like,
is-
ultimately,
This is a
Oh.
dinghy start, not
yeah.
a keel
Let's,
boat.
I'm gonna get these out of the way. What I'm saying is, if Juan Solo's right here, we want all of y'all like here. Okay, so that's what it's gonna be like. Juan Solo, everybody else. That's how it should go.
Dad,
But
you've been at the San Juan 24 National Starts. You know how that is. We must deal with this situation because that does happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, there was
It does.
one-
But it's-
that happens here on Thursday.
yeah.
So it's just for a visual, like what we've been talking about. Red should do is come up higher, set up higher, go close up. What our starts are typically looking like is like this.
Don't you want to have Zooks coming in from Florida?
Oh yeah, we've got
this.
So yeah, and like so this is kind of our pattern, which isn't necessarily wrong because we're all doing it together. But it just takes one person paying attention, and then everyone gets turned away. And I've seen it at starts. I've seen Tommy do it. I've seen Scott on the V do it. We've done it. Like, it happens where someone's coming in close haul and every single one of those boats gets shut out or has to go low. So really the moral of the story is don't be here. You want to be here.
Yeah. Well, and notice the difference. Even in this scenario, like this is probably a little late, right? But if we back this up a little bit, if this pink boat left's here, that's legal because there are routes away for the boats they're lefting. If the pink boat waits until here, we'll go here so we don't have more complicated things, and lefts the fleet now, they're putting boats right into the committee boat, which is forcing a collision. You can never force a collision on the race course.
Should we move on?
Yeah, let's move on. Okay. You want to? I'll draw this. Actually, you want to draw? You want to draw this one?
I'll draw
out?
this
This
one.
one's yours. Okay.
It's a little tricky.
We have two. All right. 2 volunteers.
This is a port starboard on the windward beat
No.
situation.
You just talked about it. You just volunteered. I heard
see
you.
you.
You volunteered.
I said not.
It's gonna be you and you.
I think that sounds like a great idea. Round of applause
Yes!
for our volunteers.
I'm only
Done.
an observer tonight.
You know what? And before that's even set up, you're the red boat, you're the green boat.
All right, I like it.
I knew I should have done Zoom.
I'm claiming an exemption for myself because I don't want to make a butt of myself in front of my new boss.
All right, you know what?
Let's make the Zoom people do it.
I'll go. I'll be one of these boats. Gabe, tell me whatever boat you want me to be in.
Oh, Jesus.
Wait a second.
This is gonna be chaotic. I'll walk through this. Okay.
Good Lord, what happened?
I think
There was a
You
collision
probably
for
want to
sure.
go up.
I would be in
Really?
those.
no, because they do come up at the end.
So if
Oh,
you're
or we-
sailboat
so we are
is
saying there's a
phenomenal,
collision.
right?
Oh wait, no, it's gonna be like.
Have you guys seen those YouTube videos?
We'll
of,
go-
like,
we'll go to here,
and then I'll talk
race
to it.
boats
Okay,
that are
okay, I like it.
outrunning speedboats and having to like clip between things because of how fast they're moving. Those are awesome. No, like the America's
Okay.
Cup, I believe it is.
Who's the other?
Jason, you're going to be a boat, right?
Yeah. Okay. Sean, I'll have you be green.
Okay. I like
Jason is gonna be
You want a better
red.
yellow boat?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So I also like that you put the green boat on port and the red boat on starboard.
I can switch it.
No, don't worry about it. It's
Okay. Okay. So
Oh, somebody did something they weren't supposed to do there. I can even tell that.
yeah.
Which one's yours?
Struggling with numbers tonight.
And
Okay,
this
so
one's
this
like
is our
spinning.
first three boat. Oh yeah. So this is our first three boat situation. But I'll talk about which two boats it's between.
As a reminder, protests are always between, rules are always between two boats.
Yeah.
So is the third boat obligated to come to the protest or?
No.
Only
They can
if
be a
they're
witness.
called as
Can he be
Yeah.
subpoenaed or?
I mean, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But is he obligated or? can he-
I don't think witnesses are obligated.
No.
I don't think so.
I think it's usually if somebody sees it and they're like, I want to help you out with that,
Oh, okay.
then you can get them to be a witness.
However, he can, if something turns up in the hearing that the third boat fouled somebody, then he can be protested and they have to have another, he has to be called back.
So if the third boat's brought into it in that manner because he didn't hail and fly a flag, because it's against him, never mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that would be race committee protesting.
Well, yeah,
Right?
well, yeah.
And that's another point is that you can be the protesting boat and still get disqualified.
Yeah.
So make sure you're ready.
So you should be sure that you're right.
After
Okay.
tonight, it really.
I have been thrown out
I'll
on
give you an
protest.
advantage. I don't even have a protest flag on my boat, so.
My new boat doesn't have
We'll
that.
fix that for you.
Okay.
That was
All right,
one
let's
of my
get it.
questions. I'm like, wait a minute.
Okay, so we have a boat on starboard and two boats on port. The red boat sees the first port boat, the yellow, and hails starboard. Yellow thinks that they're gonna cross, but they don't. Red has to turn down and avoid. They protest yellow. Yellow acknowledges and exonerates by spinning. So that's like one situation that went right on the water. As soon as red goes behind yellow, they come up to close hauled course again. There is another port boat. They yell starboard and then end up having to duck that boat as well. So, and then red protests the green boat. The green boat feels they did not break a rule. And they sail around the rest of the course, and now we're in the protest room.
So who do we say is red and green?
I'm green.
You're green?
Mhm.
Oh, you're definitely wrong.
We'll
Did
see.
you say they yelled starboard?
Yeah,
Let's talk about what's said on the water again.
it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, this is just to alert the other boats.
They alerted. They did their due diligence to alert the other boat. They didn't have to, but they did to make sure everyone knows that they're coming.
On the water. We appreciate the
That's
communication.
that's
Next
one
thing
of
you know, it's gonna be.
Communication is always good.
But only in club races. Only in club races do they communicate.
that's generally one of those
it's not required, but it's a sportsman-like way to act on the water. So.
Yeah.
Well, it indicates you're trying to avoid collision.
Yes.
Yeah.
Question.
So, the yellow boat, when he called out protest, I saw you put a spin on it.
Yeah.
You did 2 spins.
Yes.
Do we do 2 here?
What do we do?
I think we have amended to 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
but the rule is 2, but a lot of keelboat races amend down to 1
We've
spin.
been doing it 1
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, yeah, and sometimes it's 1, except if it's at a mark and then it's 2.
Yeah.
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 All right. 5 minutes starting now.
And you're, which one?
I'm
the green
green.
boat.
You're green?
Anyone need a rule book?
Oh, they're right there.
They're right there. That's all you need.
Oh my That's all I ran with.
Okay.
The yellow boat. And he protested. Did it spin? Always headed towards that line. The green boats are off point tax. The first boat doesn't yield, and you duck behind the other. I don't have to answer it.
Well, red changed course, when he ducked yellow, he changed course and came out, so it would have to be when, after he changed course, did Green have enough room to keep clear?
Well, but he was sailing the proper course, because if he had it first, right?
Proper course wouldn't matter, but it's
Protesting boat goes.
when he changed
Yeah.
his course.
Okay.
With the change of course,
wanna
he
make
has
sure.
to allow the other boat room.
That is
To-
pretty
to
clear.
respond to-
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, I guess it's right,
Yeah.
that there wasn't enough room after that.
Yeah, so Green can assume that Red's gonna follow the course that he is in
John, I'm gonna head out after
2,
this.
in position 2. Well, you can assume that until he changes course. When he changes course, then that's when Green has to have room to respond.
But the course at position 1 doesn't matter?
Okay.
At position 1, I don't think so, no, it shouldn't matter.
Obviously, do not tell me
And is it
which
significant that
boat
the
you threw to win,
change was
but
to
if you
avoid
have
collision?
a thought on if this was a situation as drawn, who you would side with, or which boat would rather
Because if it
be?
hadn't
I do
been
think it
for
depends on
the
the-
yellow boat.
Yep.
we would've
Okay.
That's true.
You know, I mean, Red's
Yeah.
Red's desire, absent other boats, is to keep sailing the line between 1 and 3.
That's right, but he was forced not to do it.
I didn't.
2 minutes.
Now-
From a change of course.
I was on Lucky Jim
So because they avoid collision, they lose their right of way?
They don't lose the right, they still have right of way, but when they change course, they lose the right of way if they do it too close to the other boat for them to keep clear.
Yeah.
This is not to scale, right? The
That's the way I
distances
would-
are to be argued.
Yeah, he's getting a double dip.
Okay, now I kind of want to.
Right,
first.
Change course to avoid 1, and now because he changed course, he has to avoid 2.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting for Red, who's trying to do
But, you know,
trying
with
to
that,
sail a race.
you know,
is
I would
interrupted twice by
almost say
boats.
it there, that Green could crash tack and avoid.
Well, that, yeah.
You know,
That-
yeah,
that's
that's the question.
Do they? Yeah. Right, and that's the crux of it, is if Green doesn't have room. Green doesn't have room to move, because Red has to turn to avoid. But if Red has to turn to avoid, then they have to change course. I mean, I know they changed course from 2 to 3, but
Okay.
it doesn't feel right.
figure out how you do it in the rules. Two should be able to, or red should be able to just sail their course.
So I've gotten some help from one of the international centers that there's like my potable water tank, but I think maybe stuff like that.
All right, that's 5 minutes. You are first.
Because you protested him, right?
Okay.
You can do it.
All right.
Are we done clapping? Do more clapping.
Are there questions to start, or I just go right into it?
Go right into it.
Okay. So we're out on the course. I'm, of course, the red boat. As we're on starboard tack, we approach the yellow boat. At position 2, the yellow boat did not give way, so we had to duck behind them. They went off and did their turns. When we reestablished close haul, we hailed the green boat as a starboard boat, and they, with plenty of room, chose not to change course and forced us to duck them as well.
Cool. Okay.
On the race course, I am sailing the green boat. I know that there is a boat on starboard on the other side of the course, but I'm not entirely sure at what point they will be coming through the fleet. I've been kind of waiting on this yellow boat to see where that boat is. I see the starboard boat duck the yellow boat, the red boat duck the yellow boat. As I'm sailing along, the red boat comes back up to close hauled, is continually changing its course, hails, and before it finishes, or rather, gets to close hauled, but almost immediately then after has to duck to avoid me. I therefore did not have room to avoid as they were changing course. This is a changing course rule, or situation, not a port starboard situation from the view of the green boat.
So, in a protest committee, I guess I'm not even, is it just the committee, or are there witnesses that get to interact and ask questions to?
Yeah, the protester and the protestee can both call witnesses. They're given an opportunity to do that.
So, did the red boat, this is my question to whoever wants to tell the story here. Did the red boat establish close haul before they called out starboard?
Yes.
And I would say that they had gotten to close hauled, however.
So they were on course and then called out that they were on a starboard.
Yes, however, by the time they had stopped changing their course, they almost immediately then had to avoid again.
So, to get this straight, green boat witnessed the entire scenario, saw the course of the red boat, saw what happened with the yellow boat, and yet continues to claim that he didn't have to turn off.
So this is a feature of time as well. This is a 5 to 7 second evolution. The red boat is ducking, and then approximately 5 to 7 seconds later is having to avoid the green boat again, which does not give time to tack a boat of this type.
So a follow-up question is you saw the course of the red boat well prior to the yellow boat's interference. You knew that if there were no yellow boat, you would have to change course to duck them.
Had there been no yellow boat, I would have seen the red boat sooner. I knew the red boat would be coming across the course at some point. I did not see him until he appeared from behind the yellow boat. At that point, he was changing course, and I did not have enough time to avoid. Yes.
I think both of you should probably answer this, but I think you'll have the same answer. At position 2, if both boats had kept going on their course at that point, what would have happened?
I feel I would have crossed clear ahead.
I don't believe you would have. I think I still would have had to duck him at that point.
If you kept your course at position 2 as you were ducking the yellow boat,
it's tough to say. I will like to add that, at position 3, I was under the impression that there was time for him to, there was time and room for him to duck. Having ducked basically almost just as far as he would have had to clear him, he could have made that action and cleared me as well.
I would argue at position 3, the only possible option is a slam tack, and that is assuming my crew is in position to make that maneuver, which in this scenario we are actively racing, and I did not have time to execute even an emergency tack after the change of course.
It looks like the spacing you have right there, it doesn't look like that red boat you ducked behind the green one, it had the tack.
That's a possibility as well, yeah.
Looks like he's gonna ram him if he tries to.
And this position might be a little rough. It might be more like this or like.
I'm gonna ask, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I wanna ask this question so that we can talk about it once the determination is made. Green boat says, you knew there was a boat somewhere on the other side of the yellow boat, you just didn't see it.
Yep, that is the.
I'm just confirming that that's your
I knew
perspective.
there was a starboard boat coming from that side of the course.
You just didn't
I
know
was
where.
not, and I was waiting for its interaction with that yellow boat because I knew that would be the first opportunity I'd have to see it. It's through the sails. I could not locate the boat, and as soon as I did, it was changing course, and I did not have time to avoid.
Hey Sean, as the green boat, can you show us on the board what you expected the red boat to do had the yellow boat not existed?
Had the yellow boat not existed?
Yes, or if the yellow boat had done what it's supposed to do and avoided.
Well, had this all gone, okay, so we'll take this in two parts. If the yellow boat didn't exist, I would expect the red boat to continue, at which point I would have either had to avoid, or it's possible he would have been clear ahead as he would not have had to have ducked on the race course. However, I would have had more time to react to the other boat's position. Had this yellow boat done what it was supposed to and tacked, I would have had room to avoid the yellow boat tacking and tack as well as in this scenario. In position 2, the yellow boat is tacking. I'm matching in kind.
Well, 2 and 2 is still showing the red boat having to dip below.
Yeah, your yellow, that should be done.
Yellow should be the
Oh, yeah.
side.
There you go.
So what rule are you basing your actions on?
I am basing my actions on Rule 16, changing course. That the red boat was changing course in a way that did not allow me to keep, in a time frame that did not allow me to keep clear.
I have a question for Jason. You said in your opening statement that once you became close hauled after ducking the yellow boat and being fouled by the yellow boat, but once you became close hauled, you said there was plenty of time. Once you were close hauled, how much time and or boat lengths would there have been if a collision were to have happened?
How long would it take to, if this is what you're asking,
Yeah.
how long would it take for you to go from here to there? From close hauled to
Yeah, what's that
contact?
distance?
And I think an important question, I wasn't there, I was vacuuming my driveway. And what kind of boats are you sailing and how windy was it? And then from that answer, how long would it take you to hit the green boat?
So I would like to point out real quick is that in my initial opening response, I did state that it was approximately 5 to 7 seconds between the ducking at position 2 and position 3 on the race course when the protest happened. So that was my side of the story.
I do
Passing on.
recognize your statement, and that's why I wanted to give Jason an opportunity to say, from his time frame, how much time was there for? Because you said there was plenty of time. I'm just trying to.
I guess, these are old, slow boats, so they don't move very fast. But I think it was more than 5 to 10 seconds. It seemed like it was more, but it's hard to put a time on it. But it was at least a couple boat lengths.
What was the wind speed at this time?
Oh, 40 to 50 knots.
Oh man, you can turn on a dime.
We'll go with like 10 knots, 10 or so knots, yeah.
And what size boats?
Let's say on 24.
Yeah.
Oh, you can turn on a dime.
So in a port starboard situation, why would time have anything to do with anything?
As the in my story, obviously, is as the red boat was changing course, he has to give room to avoid, and I contend that he did not give time or room to avoid.
Yeah, I mean, because that's what it is. If you're close hauled, are you close hauled for 3 seconds, or are you close hauled for 30 seconds? Like that's the time. Right?
This is port starboard.
Yep.
But I think if you
But there's more
can
rules.
crash tack and avoid, but your crew's not ready, is my crew's not ready a justifiable reason to follow another
my
boat?
argument is if I threw my tiller, you would have still hit me because I would have stopped here when my jib left, and it wouldn't have changed the situation. You would have had to avoid in a more damaging way, and I would not have. It wouldn't have changed the interaction.
So, I feel like we're nearing the end of fact finding here, so I'm just gonna put out a visualization. Let's just say there's an island here, or a mass of boats that have collided or something,
An obstruction.
and so one wanted to go upwind, but decided to not run into the land, and turned down like this, and then as they rounded, they came up to close haul, so much larger course change. At what point does green need to avoid? At what point are they on a collision course? And what options does green have when that happens?
My interpretation of Rule 16 is you cannot actively be changing your course, and you cannot actively be changing your course towards a port boat and claim port starboard. Right. As is what the case was in my view in this scenario. And when the changing of and the course change stops, you must give reasonable time. You must give room to avoid.
Yeah,
which
that's
did
the
not
thing,
happen.
the course is changing until the boat stops changing course. So the green boat does not have to start avoiding until the red boat is not changing course anymore.
So we have two things here that he said. A, you're on San Juan 24s, and B, you had 7 seconds. I've seen a San Juan 24 change course in 5 seconds.
So I have 7 seconds. I have 5 to 7 seconds from the time that I see his bow. He is changing course until the last 2 to 3 seconds of that situation. In which case, if I start that tack immediately, a collision or avoidance is happening regardless. I cannot tack in a way that would keep me clear of his boat in those 2 seconds.
Is this fact or your opinion?
It's the hey.
I would say that's opinion,
Has
'cause
anything-
I was close hauled and on my course hailing him for at least 5 to 7 seconds before I had to duck it.
And see, this is the and see, this is where I would argue that I had my numbers straight from my beginning story. His numbers were soft and have firmed up as we've gone along. So I'm just saying, let's put it out there.
I gotta run off, but I'm gonna just say 2 things that I've seen in I think the case book. These are they're direct quotes as far as I can remember them. One is that a boat has no requirement to predict what another boat is going to do.
That's right.
So they, even though they know this boat wants to go upwind, they are not required to anticipate that they are going to turn back upwind.
That's why I asked that question earlier.
Yeah. What was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, in these situations where there's completely opposite opinions about time and things, and it's like a split thing on who are you going to believe, you look back in time at what conditions were before the point of contention. So At this point, it's 50-50. They're saying there's different amounts of space. But at this point, they're clear. No one's going to run into each other. And because of 2's actions, now green is in a pickle. So
They changed course and
they changed course.
created a collision.
And they did end up ducking, but they made this situation happen. So there would be no fault here. Is my opinion.
Is the island scenario different than the yellow boat scenario?
It's only different because the yellow boat scenario, the red boat was actually fouled, whereas
Right.
in this situation they're just going around something.
It doesn't
would the
change
foul-
the interaction between the
It
red and the
doesn't.
green.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
The rules only apply between 2 boats.
Yeah.
But I guess what doesn't feel right, I was saying earlier, and I don't know that there's a rule for feeling in sailing, is that the red boat is trying to do the right thing, and because 2 other boats get in its way, it
Yeah.
ends up in a disadvantaged situation.
So that's where there is another mechanism for the red boat, even though they, because of yellow's actions, maybe have a series of 10 boats that they have to duck. They can file for redress based on this situation. But that's still up to the race committee to decide if they get some kind of point.
They probably won't.
What does redress award them? Extra time?
No, it can actually award them places or time, but in a situation like this, it probably wouldn't work.
And that would often happen at the same hearing or the same type of hearing as this, right? You
Yeah,
hear the
right,
protest and then you would
Yep.
talk about redress. Okay.
But if there's a situation where, like, one boat crashes into another boat, and they go from first to last,
Yeah.
they're likely to get some kind of
Sure.
benefit from that.
I'd like to get a little perspective. What I found myself doing as I was talking to different people in different scenarios in different events is I always thought about what's the other boat, what rule are they gonna argue on? So, they're gonna talk about course change, and so then that's kind of when we started talking about, okay, well, I was close hauled for like 7 seconds before, that he said he was fouled. So I don't know. I don't know if that's the right or wrong way to do it. But.
And you should think, if you're deciding whether or not to go into a protest hearing, think, is this going to come down to how much time we each say? And if that's the case, it's a hard one to win. One more thing, and then I gotta go. Gotta take my dog out. I think this is really great. I think we're all having a good time, and we should remember this as this is how protests can go. Like, this is, if we want to do it this way, this is how we can do it. And if you can't protest them, they're not your friends.
Yep.
So everybody get your red flags out this season. We can have some fun doing this.
Or just do turns.
What?
Or just do
Yeah.
turns.
Well, even then you gotta protest, right? So-
And then even if someone does turns, we can still do this.
Yep.
I think that's a great opportunity. Okay, see you guys later.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.